If you want to know what extreme technical debt actually feels like, throw away your management books. Because when your team stops asking why they are building and only talks about what is broken, all strategic vision dies. Welcome to Lead Prompt, Executing Leadership from the Root. I'm your host, John Collins. Recently, I finished reading Doggerland by Ben Smith, and I can't stop thinking about it. I decided to review it here because it actually has a lot to say about our relationship between the companies we work for every day of our professional lives. From an engineering perspective, it also highlights the critical importance of good maintenance. If you want to know what extreme technical debt actually feels like, don't read a management book. Read Ben Smith's Doggerland instead. Firstly, let me explain what Doggerland was in historical terms. The history of Doggerland. Doggerland references the submerged landmass that once connected Great Britain and by extension Ireland to continental Europe during the last ice age. Before the sea levels rose and claimed it around 6500 BC, it was a rich, habitable landscape of lagoons, marshes, and rolling hills. Today, it lies completely underwater beneath the North Sea. It represents a lost world, a massive piece of infrastructure erased by changing climates and time, making it the perfect haunting namesake for Smith's novel, given the central themes of loss and regret in the book. In his debut novel, Doggerland tells the story of a boy and an old man stationed on a decaying offshore wind farm in the middle of the North Sea. Their daily existence is consumed by a grueling, never-ending schedule of repairing hundreds of failing turbines. They are completely isolated, kept alive only by intermittent drops of flavorless rations delivered by a company pilot. The old man is institutionalized by the routine, accepting his fate and endless maintenance cycle. The boy, however, searches the flotsam and jetsam pulling in from the tide. He is desperately searching for clues about his missing father, the mechanic who preceded him, and is beginning to question the very nature of the massive, rusted machine they are sacrificing their lives to maintain. In my opinion, this is the ultimate legacy architecture metaphor. The massive crumbling wind farm is the physical equivalent of inheriting a sprawling, undocumented legacy codebase. The boy and the old man are trapped in an infinite loop of replacing rusted metal and failing gears against the hostile elements. You can draw a direct parallel here to the daily grind of refactoring brittle legacy applications, where the original architect, much like the boy's father who originally worked on the turbines, has simply vanished and left the mess behind. It captures that specific dread of trying to keep an ancient system from collapsing when you're starved of proper tooling, or trying to optimize processes against severe hardware and resource limits. In one scene, the boy even complains about some detail in the manual left behind being exactly wrong, which sounded familiar to me as an engineer. It made me think about absentee leadership and misaligned incentives. In the book, the Faces company demands continuous operation but provides the workers with terrible resources, such as borderline inedible lifelong rations delivered by a menacing supply pilot periodically. The motives of the pilot are uncertain, but his lack of empathy is not. This is the perfect lens for discussing what happens when leadership is entirely abstracted from the engineers on the ground. For me, it served to highlight the dangers of absentee management, where decision makers only look at uptime dashboards but have no concept of the physical or mental toll it takes on the operators executing the manual overrides to keep the lights on. It also talks about the psychology of the isolated operator. The dynamic between the boy and the old man is fascinating from a team operations perspective. They are essentially a siloed two-person operation trapped in a survival loop, to the point where they barely even use each other's names. There is a powerful angle here to explore about the psychology of the solo operator or the heavily isolated team. When communication breaks down into pure routine, you are just executing the next patch to survive the day, and all strategic vision dies. It is a warning about the cultural rot that sets in when engineers stop talking about why they are building and only talk about what is broken. One of the most haunting questions the novel prompts is, what is this slowly failing electricity source actually supplying? Does the mainland even exist in a recognizable form anymore? This maps beautifully to the concept of zombie infrastructure in tech. How often do teams dedicate massive mental bandwidth and compute power to maintaining legacy systems, data pipelines, or databases without ever stepping back to ask if the output is still serving a purpose? We often lack the big picture of what we are actually working on, what the overall mission is, and how our personal contributions play a part in that. In one hunting scene, the boy finds himself alone in a meeting room where everything is clean, and a machine in the corner of the room still brews coffee. The boy has never had coffee before and finds himself spending days drinking it while reading through piles of corporate brochures and diagrams left in the room that he cannot make sense of. In conclusion, the book is bleak but very compelling. I found myself willing the boy on, hoping he would find the answers he was seeking. The mood is as grim as the weather at sea, all of which is described beautifully by Ben Smith. I have a soft spot for nautical adventures ever since I read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, so I was naturally drawn to Doggerland and was not disappointed. It reminded me a lot of the movie Moon starring Sam Rockwell, or the book Shipwreck by Charles Logan, both of which deal with themes of isolation and adversity in an uncaring world. Recommended for lovers of nautical tales, quiet science fiction, and the study of our relationships with the corporations that expect loyalty from us but do not offer the same in return. Talk to you next time. Take care.